finding a life partner. It can be amazing, obviously, but wow, it can also be quite the emotional roller coaster sometimes. The highs, the lows. Well, you know the drill.
Definitely. It takes a lot out of you.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating ideas sent in by one of you, a listener who's clearly put a ton of thought into this.
Yeah, it looks like a really considered approach.
It's kind of a two-pronged strategy, really, aimed at making the search for that, meaningful connection much more intentional.
Exactly. We're looking at two quite different paths. One leans heavily on tech, pretty advanced database and AI setup.
Okay.
And the other, it's a very structured, almost philosophical, personal method.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack these ideas, pull out the key insights, and maybe offer some, fresh ways to think about navigating this really important part of life.
Let's do it. Where should we start? The tech.
Yeah, let's kick things off with the tech angle. So the core idea is this super comprehensive database, a matchmaking tool that goes way beyond just surface-level stuff.
Okay, how comprehensive are we talking?
Imagine like a really detailed online form. People share a lot, not just hobbies, but core values, life history, future plans, even really specific preferences in a partner.
Trying to capture the deeper aspects then.
Exactly. The things that actually matter long term.
That's ambitious. Moving beyond those quick filters you usually see, it aims for a richer picture, allows for maybe a more nuanced view of compatibility right from the start.
Right.
But, I mean, it does make you wonder, how effectively can you really capture someone's essence in a form? That's always the challenge, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And a really crucial part of this concept is privacy.
Okay, how so?
Initially, your personal contact info, totally hidden. So when you're browsing this database, you filter based on all that detailed data, their answers, their criteria. You might see things like location, languages spoken, the practical bits, but zero names, zero photos in those early stages.
Interesting. So deliberately anonymous at first.
Yeah, it feels like a very conscious effort to make it rational, data-driven initially, to prioritize what truly aligns before, appearance sways you.
It's a fascinating gamble, isn't it? Taking the visual element out forces a focus on substance.
Right.
It could lead to connections based on deeper stuff, shared goals. But you might also miss that initial visceral spark that often, brings people together in the first place.
True. It's a trade-off.
Finding that balance is tricky.
Then the AI gets involved. The system takes all this rich data and starts suggesting potential matches based on, whatever the algorithms find.
Ah, the AI matchmaker.
Kind of like a super smart friend who actually listened to everything you said you wanted, using data, not just intuition.
Right. The AI is hunting for patterns, correlations, and all that info, trying to pinpoint individuals who, based purely on the data submitted, seem to have a higher chance of connecting meaningfully.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different way to discover potential partners. Might uncover matches you'd just never find otherwise.
And the contact process. Also very controlled. If you see someone's profile, just the anonymous data, remember, and you're interested. You express interest through the platform. It then sends an anonymous notification using a nickname or maybe just a code to the other person.
Ah, so mutual consent is built right in.
Totally.
Yeah.
It protects privacy and ensures both people have shown some interest before anything personal gets shared.
That feels important. A layer of respect and, frankly, safety.
Exactly. Only if both sides say yes, basically, does the system then share the actual contact details.
Okay, step by step.
Very intentional. And the idea is potentially to offer this tool within specific communities. People who already share a passion, maybe a hobby or faith, or just live nearby.
That makes sense. Having some existing common ground could be a real advantage, sort of pre-filtering the pool.
Yeah. So for you, the listener, always keen on learning efficiently, this tech approach presents a structured way to potentially, speed up finding like-minded people, especially within certain groups.
And thinking bigger picture, optimizing your search. This gives a framework that really prioritizes that data-driven compatibility. Very different from just, endless swiping.
Okay, definitely a lot to think about on the tech side. Now let's switch gears to the second idea. This one's very personal, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, philosophical. This methodology really caught my eye.
Me too. It's quite distinct.
The core concept is this two-stage process. First, use reason, your logical mind, to filter and maybe even rule people out before emotions get tangled up.
Right. Head before heart, initially.
And only then From that pre-vetted pool, do you let your heart guide the final choice?
That deliberate separation is the key, isn't it? The rationale is if you establish compatibility based on reason first,
Mm-hmm.
you might avoid getting deeply attached to someone who doesn't actually align with your long-term life goals. Could save a lot of heartache later on.
Yeah, building a solid foundation first.
Exactly, before the emotional architecture goes up.
So the first task in this personal method, serious self-reflection. Like really serious.
Right.
The suggestion is to actually sit down and write in detail about your ideal life. What does it look like?
Well,
What kind of family, if any? What are your personal growth goals? Physical, mental, spiritual skills?
wow, okay. Painting a really vivid picture.
Totally. Visualizing that ideal future
Yeah.
in concrete terms.
That kind of deep dive into yourself acts as your compass, right? Your North Star.
Yeah.
If you know clearly where you want to go, you can better assess if someone else's path aligns with yours. It's about intention right from the beginning.
And it makes a direct link between that self-improvement work and attracting the right kind of partner.
How so?
The idea is basically by becoming your best self, you're more likely to connect with someone who's also on that kind of journey, being on the same wavelength, so to speak.
That definitely resonates. We often attract people who mirror our own development, our values.
Right.
So focusing on your own growth isn't just for you. It ups the odds of finding someone compatible who's also doing the work.
Okay, then the second personal task,
Mm-hmm.
create a similarly detailed design of your ideal partner.
Like a spec sheet.
Kind of.
Huh.
Outlining the qualities, characteristics that are really important, maybe ranking them, while also noting things that are, nice to haves, but not critical.
Really defining what you're genuinely looking for.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The emphasis on honesty, including the negative stuff about yourself.
Oh, telling people your flaws up front.
Yeah. The thinking is, by being totally transparent about your own shortcomings, you encourage incompatible people to self-select out.
Fewer matches, but maybe more genuinely aligned ones. Radical transparency for efficiency's sake.
It even suggests, get this, having friends or family make videos highlighting your flaws.
Wow, that is bold. A very unconventional approach to suffering.
Right. Makes you wonder if the potential cringe factor outweighs the benefit of, like, ultra-filtering.
It's certainly asking for a lot of vulnerability, but I see the principle. Provide a complete, honest picture from the start, so anyone interested accepts the whole you.
Then, looping back to text slightly, it suggests using AI tools to turn these detailed written documents into audio or video profiles.
Ah, for easier sharing.
Yeah, a way to convey all that depth efficiently. But the source material does flag that sharing such personal profiles, well, it might land differently depending on cultural norms.
That's a really important caveat. How open people are, the norms around sharing such intimate stuff, it varies hugely. What's proactive in one culture might seem very odd in another.
Definitely. Okay, so the methodology then says initial conversations after mutual interest is confirmed, but before you meet in person.
Another filter layer.
Yeah, checking for deeper compatibility beyond the profile. Do your communication styles click? Do your values actually align when you talk?
That step allows for a more nuanced feel for connection, right? You can explore things, gauge their style, get a sense of personality without the pressure of being face-to-face yet.
Testing the waters more deeply.
Exactly.
And then the suggestion is share photos before meeting, just to ensure there's at least a baseline physical attraction.
Pragmatic. Avoids potentially wasting time on dates where that fundamental spark just isn't there for one or both people.
Yeah. The ultimate goal here is that face-to-face meetings only happen with people who have a really high probability of being a good match, aiming for like a small number of decisive dates, not tons of casual ones.
Maximizing the potential of those in-person meetings by doing the homework first?
Right. So for you, the listener, looking for structure and respecting your own time, this personal method feels incredibly thorough, maybe even efficient in the long run.
It definitely prioritizes depth over breadth.
Now, this whole detailed process, it seems to be aiming higher than just finding someone compatible. The idea of seeking a soulmate comes up.
Yes, the source material does frame this whole pursuit as potentially leading to that finding a soulmate, that really unique, deeply resonant connection.
It even briefly touches on beliefs about the soul's immortality, pre-birth connections, suggesting finding that person in this life might take real personal growth and effort.
It adds a definite philosophical, almost spiritual layer to the search, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not just about ticking boxes on a checklist.
No, it points towards something deeper, a connection that maybe requires you to evolve personally, to even recognize it, let alone nurture it.
Though importantly, it also acknowledges that you can have a wonderful, fulfilling relationship without finding that specific soulmate.
True. But it emphasizes the unique qualities of a soulmate bond, that intuitive understanding, the complementarity, the shared potential.
Something else to consider here is the potential imbalance of information.
How do you mean?
Well, if you're using these super detailed methods, you're likely going to know a lot more about potential partners than they know about you, at least at first.
Ah, right. Information asymmetry.
And the suggestion to counter that: request that potential partners also create similar detailed self-descriptions.
Interesting. Frame it as helpful for their search, too.
Exactly. Beneficial for their own self-awareness and search process, regardless of whether you two end up being a match. It encourages mutual effort.
It tries to level the playing field in terms of self-disclosure, pushing both people towards that deeper reflection and articulation of needs.
Okay, so let's say you've narrowed it down using one or both of these approaches. The next stage is about really refining that selection.
Making the final choice, essentially.
The source emphasizes spending significant quality time with a candidate fairly early on, really assessing that long-term fit beyond the initial good impressions.
Makes sense. Moving past the honeymoon phase thinking.
And the idea is that all that detailed info you gathered beforehand, it should optimize this getting to know you phase. You can have deeper conversations sooner.
Right. You've already got a lot of the background, so you can dive into more meaningful territory faster than, say, on a typical first date.
Yeah, contrast this with those sometimes inefficient blind dates where you spend ages just figuring out the basics.
Sure.
But realistically, even with all this filtering, you might still have, more than one promising candidate at this stage.
That seems likely. Even a rigorous process could yield a few strong contenders. So how does the methodology suggest handling that?
It offers more evaluation techniques. One is to keep a record written notes, maybe even voice memos, of your own perceptions and opinions as you interact with each person.
Ah, like an ongoing personal assessment journal.
Yeah. It encourages being really mindful and reflective about your reactions, their behavior, the whole dynamic.
Actively processing the experience, not just letting it wash over you.
And then share these reflections with people you trust, friends, family, maybe a mentor. Get their input.
Okay, bringing in outside perspective.
Leveraging the wisdom of your support network, basically. They might see things, blind spots that you're missing.
That sounds sensible. Getting a reality check from people who know you well.
Then it gets even more structured. Using actual spreadsheets or forms.
Spreadsheets or dating.
Yeah. With specific questions, even scoring criteria for each candidate.
Yeah.
Not just for you, for those trusted friends or family to fill out, too.
Wow, okay. That sounds almost like a business decision process.
It's definitely analytical. But the goal is to bring objectivity to a hugely important, often very emotional decision. Having predefined criteria helps you systematically compare people based on what you decided matters most.
I can see the logic, even if it feels a bit clinical.
It even mentions weighting criteria. Some things matter more than others, right? And calculating an average score for each potential relationship.
A compatibility score, essentially.
And full circle to tech, it revisits the idea of AI potentially providing its own assessment score based on all the available data.
So layering a data-driven analysis on top of your own feelings and your network's input. Interesting.
This whole detailed evaluation, sounds like work, a significant investment. But it's presented as the most efficient path to a rational, informed decision about a life partner.
And the crucial reminder threaded through this phase.
Try to keep emotions somewhat in check during the evaluation to maintain objectivity. Easier said than done, maybe.
For sure. But ultimately, this whole methodology promotes a very, very thoughtful, intentional approach, prioritizing that long-term alignment, trying to minimize the risks of getting swept away by feelings that might not match the underlying compatibility.
So wrapping up, we've explored two really distinct paths today. There's the tech-heavy database using AI and deep personal info, big on privacy. And then this very personal reason-first methodology, extensive self-reflection, designing your ideal partner, structured evaluation.
And the common thread really seems to be moving towards a much more intentional, self-aware, and informed way of searching for a life partner.
Yeah, focusing on genuine, deep compatibility rather than just leaving it all to chance or surface attraction.
Exactly.
So here's a final thought for you listening. In a world that often feels full of fleeting connections, what if applying this kind of rigor, this blend of tech and deep self-work, could actually fundamentally change how we experience relationships? Maybe lead to, greater fulfillment.
It's definitely something to think about. Which parts of these ideas resonate most with your own experiences, your own outlook on finding connection?
Worth pondering.